Finding and buying a home in today's market can be challenging and sometimes even complicated. And it's important to have a well-designed plan for that entire process. And because of that, what I've done is I created a clear path that really simplifies this entire process. But more importantly, what it does, it assures that buyer will obtain a successful purchase. Now, there are 6 key components, 6 steps in this process. Before I talk about these 6 key steps and how the buyer and I work together through this process, I first want to focus on this term, successful purchase. A successful purchase is first where I make certain my buyer obtains that ideal home on time, on their time schedule. Secondly, that transaction is seamless with the fewest amount of problems. And third, they obtain that ideal home at the best purchase price. So again, it's not just finding and buying a home, but making certain it's a successful purchase, on time, fewest problems, and at the best purchase price. Now, the way I accomplish that is the buyer and I work together as a team through these 6 key steps. So let me give you an overview of them. That way you can evaluate my expertise and see if we have a match, if we can work together, okay? The first step is to make certain the buyer has their financing in place. I mean, proper qualification and financing can make a huge difference. And it's a lot more than just getting a mortgage. And so obtaining and securing the right financing is probably as important as finding the right home. Now, my second responsibility is to help that buyer gain total access to the marketplace. How often do you buy a home in a lifetime? And a buyer should never have to settle for less. They should have more choices. Now, there's a lot more than finding the ideal home than driving through neighborhoods, walking through open houses, surfing the internet, and using the traditional MLS. Oh yes, I use all those resources, but in addition, I roll up my sleeves and put the extra effort in to find the hidden properties, the quiet ones, the ones that aren't even on the market yet. This gives my buyer total access, more choices, so they never settle for less. Now, my third responsibility is once they find that ideal home, is help them secure it at the best purchase price. Now, the best purchase price is not always the lowest price. See, the best purchase price is the price that secures the property for the buyer. And this can be a real balancing act and is trickier waiting to see. See, I never want them to lose the property by coming in too low, but just as importantly, I don't want them to overpay by coming in too high. So my job is to help them find that special spot so they never lose by overpaying or underpaying. Now, my fourth responsibility is once they find that property is to secure it through skillful negotiation. I mean, this is where the sale begins or ends. And in this business, a buyer doesn't get what they deserve. They get what they negotiate. So my job is to be the skillful negotiator, to bring the two parties together, win-win, and secure that property for the buyer. Now that leads me to my fifth job responsibility. And that's where I need to make this entire transaction worry-free, seamless. It's where I manage the details, kind of a project manager. I mean, when you take a step back and look at a real estate transaction, there's a lot of moving parts. And so someone has to manage those so they don't fall through the cracks. That's my job, to make the transaction seamless and worry-free. And probably most importantly, in this area here, I keep in contact with my buyer on a weekly basis. I think it's so important that the buyer and I keep ourselves on task and on time. Now that leads me to my sixth, probably most important job responsibility, and that's to fulfill the role of being a trusted advisor for my buyer. See, I think it's really important for a buyer to have someone who they trust, have confidence in, who guide them and educate them through the entire process and help them make good decisions. Someone protecting or promoting their interests. So I fulfill that more as an advisor rather than a typical salesperson. And what this all means is that the buyer has a partner, an expert, who is dependable, trustworthy, and works with them to secure that property on time with the fewest issues and at the best purchase price, that successful sale. So when you look at these 6 categories, which of these would you like to learn a little bit more about?